Hello everyone, welcome to this video. My name is Ryan. I have cerebral palsy and I've used a walker my entire life. I was talking to a friend recently and they asked me, they said, Ryan, if you could cure yourself of your disability, would you do it? And I thought about it for a little bit and my answer is no. If I could cure myself 100% and I never had to use a walker, I would not do it. In this video, I'm going to explain why. But first, gotta grab a drink. I had this vivid dream when I was 5 years old where I was talking to God, and I will never forget it. In the dream, I was kneeling at the tabernacle, and there was this big cross, and there was this light on the cross. And I remember asking it 3 questions. I asked, are my grandparents going to live a long life? And the voice said yes. And then I asked the same about my parents. I asked, are my parents going to live a long life? And the voice said yes. And my last question was, will I ever be able to walk? And I woke up. Whether you believe in God or the simulation or just think that's some sort of weird dream, I think that dream sort of encapsulates how I perceived walking as a young child. And in fact, my entire childhood was pretty much built around, I'm gonna walk. Like, I wanna walk normally. I wanna be normal. I wanna walk. And then as I got older, I started to realize, this is just not gonna happen. You are not gonna be able to walk without a walker pretty much ever. But today, we live in this world where technology is advancing so fast, where you could get a chip, like a Neuralink chip, and put it in your brain, and maybe everything could change. It's not so crazy to say that you could cure someone's disability, or you could just fix it. Everything would be good. Maybe it would fix all of my neurological issues or the spasticity that I have. Maybe it would naturally allow me to balance properly and I could just walk normally. If I had that option to just put a chip in my brain or take some sort of magic pill that would enable me to walk without having a walker, I would not do it. It wouldn't fix the physical parts. For example, my entire life I've used a walker. So your muscles will adapt in a certain way and your bones are going to adapt in a certain way. It's not going to be 100% normal. You're still going to have a funny gait. Maybe you'll drag your feet still. I don't know, but it's never going to be a 100% fix. But more importantly, I think that what not having a walker would do would take a lot of the motivation away from me. Having a disability has been a big motivational driver, not necessarily to prove myself to other people, but to prove myself to myself. Even when I was a child, I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to do this despite having a disability. I think in a weird way, being able to walk without a walker would actually be pretty traumatizing. If you don't have a disability, you're probably thinking, well, why wouldn't you want to just walk normally? But I think it would actually be sort of traumatizing to have to adjust to such a drastic change. So for example, it's easy to understand if someone were to get in a car accident and become disabled, how they could be traumatized from that, because they have to relearn everything. They once were able to do things normally, and then all of a sudden they have to learn how to live a life while they're disabled. But the inverse is also true. If you live your whole life with a disability and then all of a sudden everything is fixed, you have to relearn your entire life. All of my adaptations and all of my survival mechanisms are based around having a disability. If you abruptly change that, you're traumatized in a different way. While it seems positive on the surface, you would have to unlearn and relearn a whole new way of being. So superficially, it looks good. Yeah, you could walk without a walker, but it doesn't necessarily change the underlying psychology behind everything. It's kind of weird to think that something so positive could have a negative impact under the surface, but I think about people who say, for example, they win the lottery and they go bankrupt. And in fact, there are a decent amount of people that do that. If somebody just gives you millions of dollars, it doesn't necessarily change the way that you perceive money, the way that you think about money. You still don't know how to make money if you're just given the money. So it doesn't change the underlying psychology behind things. And the same thing is true if you were to if you were to magically cure my disability, I wouldn't know what to do. The juice wouldn't be worth the squeeze. I mean, because what do people care about? What do we care about as human beings? People care about health, wealth, and relationships. People want to be healthy. They want to lead healthy lives. They don't want to be sick. No one likes being sick or injured or whatever. I don't know if taking away my walker would really improve that. I do jujitsu. I do strength training 3 times a week. Already optimized my health as best as I can. I mean, I'm sure there are other ways that I could optimize it, but I think that if you were to just cure my disability and I didn't have to use a walker, I'm not so sure that I would become a healthier individual. And in terms of wealth, do I think that it would impact my wealth or making money? I mean, I already work for myself. I don't have an employer. Not having a walker doesn't really matter because it wouldn't really affect me being able to make money or not. In terms of relationships, I don't think taking away my walker would really influence much with that either. Would I attract other friends? I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't want to be friends with somebody who doesn't want to be friends with me simply because I do have a walker. But if you want to talk about romantic relationships, would I attract more women if I didn't have a walker? Maybe marginally. I mean, but the thing is, as people get more experience with dating or relationships, they develop filters for all kinds of things. So, I mean, I have a ton of tattoos. A lot of people don't like tattoos. Or I have a cat, for example. A lot of people hate cats. I don't see how the overall net gain would be positive. It would probably be pretty neutral. And in fact, I think the unintended consequences would actually cost more. In a weird way, I think there are a lot of positive things that have come from having a disability. When you have a disability, it forces you to think outside of the box. The way things are doesn't really work for you most of the time. So you have to figure out ways to modify things or workarounds or ways to do things that aren't the traditional method. You're forced to become a better problem solver because you have no choice. And that's how you end up creating new things. Another area where having a disability has affected me in a positive way is around having an identity. We live in this world where a lot of people struggle to find their identity. And for someone like me that has a disability, I feel like having a physical handicap is actually an immutable trait. You can't change that, no matter how much you want to change that. So for better or worse, having a disability and using a walker is a huge part of my identity and who I am. You know, today, in this day and age, a lot of identity gets construed with, what is your bio on Instagram? I'm at this, this, and this. You almost like get to a la carte and pick your identity and choose what you want your identity to be. But for me, in many ways, having a disability has sort of narrowed that down. When I was a kid, I really wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, but quickly realized that was never going to happen because you have a physical handicap. In the internet age, where there are unlimited options, having a disability has narrowed everything down for me. It has limited my choices, which paradoxically has made it easier to move forward in terms of identity. With that said, if I had the opportunity to cure my disability and never have to use a walker again, I would not do it.